So it's almost like I'm saying this every other video, but it honestly feels like we're going through an animation renaissance here in the West. For so many years now, Eastern animation was looked at as the pinnacle and only acceptable art form by many consumers. But over the last couple years, Western animators have released numerous projects that have been pushing the boundaries of not only the art of animation, but also the art of storytelling. And more specifically, Western adult animation has seen tremendous growth in the last couple years. Because as we all know, the Western stigma that animation is a product only for the consumption of children is slowly fading away. And many Western studios are putting in the time and effort required to elevate animation to the next level. And Netflix's newest animated project is no exception. Blue Eye Samurai is a show that took me completely by storm. Now, as someone who's watched their fair share of Netflix shows, I don't think it's unfair of me to say that Netflix doesn't always hit the mark when it comes to revolutionary and engaging projects. But when I tell y'all, in my humblest opinion, this might just be Netflix's magnum opus when it comes to animated projects. Because Blue Eye Samurai was a breathtaking experience of visuals and narrative storytelling unlike anything I've seen in the last couple years. Everything about this show was perfect, from the fight choreography to the animation to the character development. And honestly, it might be one of the best, if not the best show to release this year. But despite how amazing this show was, I honestly don't hear that many people actually talking about it, which is actually pretty crazy because it has overwhelmingly positive reviews online. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about the world of Blue Eyed Samurai and why, if you haven't already, you should definitely go watch this show. So Blue Eye Samurai follows the story of our protagonist Mizu, a half-white, half-Japanese swordsmaster on a quest for vengeance against 4 white men, one of them being her father. You see, the show takes place during Japan's Edo period, a time period where Japanese society was structured into hierarchies, descending from nobility, samurai, farmer, artisan, and merchant classes. Also during this time period, Japan's military government had an isolation policy, effectively closing the country's borders to all outside influences. And throughout the course of Blue Eye Samurai, we see that because Mizu is of mixed race heritage, her very existence is illegal in the society that she was born into, repeatedly being referred to as being less than human or impure, which sets up the plot perfectly for this Kill Bill Game of Thrones type revenge quest, as Mizu sets out to take the lives of the 4 men who illegally entered Japan and essentially doomed her life since birth, forcing her and her mother to a life of public shunning, as well as violence from locals and even strangers.
Your whore mother killed herself because your father is a white devil.
Now this show is a perfect example of how animation can be used to tell a mature story with complex themes and a whole lot of violence, because my god was this show bloody. But even with that fact, there were times when I was watching this show and I was genuinely so caught up in the narrative story of not only the main character, but also the many side characters introduced throughout the show, that hours were passing by and I hadn't even noticed. On top of that, the show has breathtaking visuals that I truly think can only be rivaled by the likes of shows like Arcane and Demon Slayer. When watching a behind the scenes video about the creation of the show, the creator said that they wanted it to look like you were watching a moving painting, and that's exactly what it felt like. There were so many times where I'd pause the show at random moments and my screen would look like it had a perfect picture on it. And when I really looked into the creation of the show, there was just so much attention to detail. From the environment to the character design to the symbolism and references, this show truly wanted you to feel like you were experiencing what it was like to be in Japan's Edo period. And even the fight animation and choreography was just so perfectly done. Nothing felt clunky or awkward. Every character's movement felt smooth and natural. Every fight felt as realistic as possible, and it was a true testament to the amount of effort that they put into every scene.
I wanted to show people that animation isn't just for kids. Animation isn't just a genre. Animation is a storytelling vehicle as well.
Now it goes without saying, I love Mizu as a character, but more specifically as the leading character. For the last couple years, every time you looked in the media, you would see people say that people don't want to see strong female leads, but I have always disagreed with that narrative. The problem with a lot of female characters you see written in media today is that they don't make them interesting. Oftentimes, these characters lack personality and are unrelatable. We never see these characters struggle. We never actually get to see them develop in front of our eyes. We get told over and over that they're going through character development, but we never actually get to witness it. There's never a training arc, there's never a learning learning phase. And more importantly, the biggest problem that a lot of new age female characters have is that they're never shown being weak. It's almost as if they're written to be gifted at everything from the beginning, and they never have to take a step back to learn. But this just isn't how human beings operate. We have to go through trials and tribulations to become the people who we are. But because these characters don't do this, like I said before, they come off as unrelatable. But Mizu completely breaks the stigma around the strong female lead. Because not only do we see her get looked down on and ostracized for being interracial, but like I said before, this show takes place in Japan's Edo period, a time where women were quite literally looked at as support objects for men. So much to the point that we see throughout the show that women truly only have two options in this world. They can either have a husband found for them and be married off, or they'll have to sell themselves for profit.
Under the law, revenge is a luxury for men like you. Women like me must be practical. We must focus on our result.
But it's these challenges that make Mizu such a compelling character, because throughout the show we see that these stigmas that have been thrown on her by society are constantly causing problems one after another. But throughout these problems we see her learn and adapt. We see her put glasses on to hide her blue eyes. We see her wear wraps and baggy clothing to hide the fact that she's a woman. And it's through these adaptations we see her become smarter and more aware of not only the struggles she faces, but how to deal with them. And not to mention, she's also the perfect example of an overpowered character done right. Because like I said before, the difference between her and a lot of other characters nowadays is we never see the development. Many overpowered characters just start off overpowered and the viewer is just expected to accept that. But Mizu is the complete opposite. We see her start off as a weak and helpless little girl. And it's only through years of dedication and training to fulfill her quest for vengeance we actually see her become an amazing swordsmaster that she is today. So when you see her cut through a dojo of highly skilled samurai or take down some of the deadliest assassins in the nation, it doesn't come off as unrealistic. Because for one, we've seen her put in the work, we've seen her get to the level where she is today. And on top of that, the show still depicts her as a human. She still gets hurt in a majority of her fights. And because she is a woman, the show doesn't take the route of showing her win fights through strength alone. Throughout the course of the show, we've seen her be overpowered by pure strength multiple times. But it's her IQ, her speed, her technique that ultimately keeps her alive, which is a way more realistic approach in my opinion.
Put down that toy and draw your sword.
But then you'll die.
And this show is just truly one of the best to experience this year. There's only one or two projects that I come across a year that when I'm watching it, I'm so interested that I want to speed through all the episodes because I can't get enough of it. But at the same time, I don't want to watch it too fast because I don't want it to end. Every episode was interesting, every moment had meaning, and the overall story was something that I think a lot of people could relate to. Plus the animation definitely added to the uniqueness and engagement of the show. Which was why I was so happy to see that only a month after the release of the show, Netflix had already approved it for production of season 2. Which makes me believe that they understand what they have on their hands here with this gem of a show. I mean, they did upload the full 1 hour first episode for free on YouTube when the show was first released, so I guess they are pretty confident in it. But like I said before, you need to check out this show because it's honestly one of the best to come out this year. And if you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you taking the time out your day to watch it. If you don't already, make sure to go follow me on my Instagram and TikTok where I talk about shows like Blue-Eyed Samurai, anime, and even YouTube animated projects. And make sure to drop in the comments which shows you would want to see me talk about next. And until then, it's been your boy CornXV, and I'm off this.
Up in this tank, yeah, it's over. Turn on bus master like coke. Pull up in Rovers, it's over. Bitch, I'm cheese sauce, this coke. Llama, it can't want no hoes. Bottle, it can't let me pour. High as fun, just like a float. Wanna glow up, let me show you. V long dogs. I don't need no